Arthur C. Clarke, the famous author, science fiction,
Yes.
and
2001.
an inventor, by the way, a
Oh, I
major.
didn't know that.
Yeah, he invented the satellite, among other things.
Really?
So Arthur C. Clarke said that a science which is sufficiently advanced would be indistinguishable from magic. And that is a very astute observation. It means that what we consider today to be the paranormal will, with absolute certainty, become science in due time. It is just that our science is imperfect and reflects our limitations right now. And to assume otherwise is hubris, it's grandiose. The paranormal is a set of experiences. And we are confusing the question of validity. While it is legitimate to challenge the objective external existence, the next comment I would like to make is that there are some questions, the answers to which we are never going to find, because in principle, these questions are unanswerable. And they're known in mathematics as undecidable propositions or undecidable theorems. Let me give you two examples of such questions and why it is a colossal waste of time to discuss them even. Does God exist? And the other question is, what is consciousness? These are the kind of questions that in principle cannot be answered. Therefore, any discussion of these questions is non-scientific. That means that science, the ability of science to generate temporary false answers, mind you, we call them asymptotic answers. The ability to generate these kind of answers is highly limited. There are things that science cannot query, cannot help us with. The meaning of life. Does God exist? What is consciousness? Is it real? You know, these are questions science can never in principle answer. So these are undecidables. I would like to inject an idea into the conversation. There is something called misattribution of arousal. Misattribution of arousal is a psychological phenomenon where something is happening in your body. For example, your blood pressure goes up or your heartbeat accelerates, develop tachycardia, and so on. And then you are kind of asking yourself unconsciously, why is this happening to me? And you come up with an answer. And the answer is often wrong. We have conducted experiments with the classical guinea pigs of psychology, college students, and we induced in them a speedy heartbeat. We gave them illicit substances without their knowledge. Horrible things are happening. Oh, horrible things are happening in psychology lab. Don't ask. And so they had like an increase in blood pressure and heartbeat and so on and so forth. And obviously they were not aware that they've consumed a substance which made this happen. So they came up with an explanation. When we asked them, why do you feel this way? They said, I think I'm falling in love. They were presented with photographs of appealing young women. They said, I think I'm falling in love. Or I'm finding her attractive, I'm aroused, and so on. Nothing to do with it. It's a misattribution of arousal. I think this is an excellent explanation for the paranormal. Because we know that the paranormal observations and experiences are intimately linked to grief, loneliness, stress, tension, anxiety, a preceding traumatic event, abuse, and so on. In all these situations, suddenly people experience paranormal phenomena. Anything from telepathy to remote viewing to ghosts, I mean, you name it. They're all associated with kind of stress. Even when we study such phenomena in the laboratory, that's a stressful situation. There are expectations of performance, there is the unknown, and so on. I think all these situations involve physiological arousal that is then misattributed to paranormal phenomena. People ask themselves, why is this happening to me? Why is my heart pounding in my ears and why is my face flushed and so on? And they say, it's because something paranormal is happening to me. I know my mother died. I just know it, you know?
Okay. I've got a couple of questions for you with this new turn the conversation's taken, which I love. Misattribution of arousal, this experiment in which I'm not saying you, in which college students were given without their knowledge drugs which increase their blood pressure, heart rate, what have you. Would you not say that that is not giving the subject all of the information? Because without the knowledge of that drug in their system, what are they to do but react to stimuli that is deliberately placed in front of them and attribute that physiological reaction? Number one. Number two, my question would be, is there an argument to be made that when a human being is in a state of crisis, perhaps the veil between our temporal world and what may be beyond our earthly knowledge somehow reveals itself? And thirdly, what do you make of, just curious as to your own suppositions, of those who would be in otherwise a state of rest? There are records of this all over the world, where an individual wakes up out of a dead sleep at the moment that a loved one has died. Could be thousands of miles away. You take it.
I'll start with the third one. Coincidences happen, of course.
Those would be a lot of coincidences, though.
Not a lot, actually.
You don't think so?
If you look at the numbers, it's not a lot.
But the recorded ones.
We don't have millions of documented cases or billions.
Documented. That, I think, is the key word. I'm just going to push back a little bit.
Even if we have missed a few, I don't think that's a widespread phenomenon.
Okay.
And it's definitely within the confines of statistical random probability. Definitely. Regarding the second question, I agree with you that the brain needs to be in an unusual state. So does Oliver Sacks, by the way. So does Christopher Hitchens.
We'll get to him in 1 second, yep.
We all agree with you that the brain needs to be in an aroused state, in an unusual state, in order to experience paranormal phenomena. The difference between me and Hitchens and Sacks and others is that it is wrong to say that paranormal phenomena do not exist. They absolutely 100,000% exist. I have no doubt about this, because they're being reported by people. That makes them real. The only question then is, do they happen outside the body or do they happen inside the body? Are they brain artifacts or are they real objective things that are happening in reality? And there is a way to rephrase this. If we remove the observer, would we still have a ghost? That's the way to look at it. Someone who has seen a ghost, if we remove the observer, would we still have a ghost? We have a similar question in quantum mechanics. In quantum mechanics, we have a dominant school of interpretation known as the Copenhagen interpretation. I'm a physicist, by the way. I have a PhD in physics. So the Copenhagen interpretation says that it is the observer that determines whether a certain particle comes into existence or not. And then the question becomes, if we were to remove the observer, would the particle ever come into existence?
Is this a version of if a tree falls, Sam? The philosophical question?
It's if the tree falls, or one
and nobody's there to see it, did it fall?
Yeah. So, yeah, in a way, what is the role of the observer? Let's put it this way. I think what is good for the gander is good for the goose. What's good for quantum mechanics should be good for the paranormal, studies of the paranormal, the dependency on the observer. It's in science. It's already in science. We can't rebottle the genie. The genie is out. And now in physics, we're having debates which sound a lot like the debates spiritualist societies used to have in the 19th century. A lot. Metaphysical debates. And one of them is, what's the role of the observer? And so, for example, in the 19th century, there was a concept of ectoplasm, where the observer was able to manifest a deceased person, a ghost, a spirit, manifest the spirit, convert it into visible energy. And that was called ectoplasm. That's not much different to the basic interpretation of quantum mechanics, that the observer creates the world, in essence, creates elementary particles. I don't subscribe to the Copenhagen interpretation, let it be clear. I completely disagree with it. But it's the dominant school. That's the orthodoxy. It's the mainstream. So I think that if we go back to the basics of psychology, Sigmund
Mm-hmm.
Freud described something that he called oceanic feeling. He said, he and many others, Anna Freud, Mahler, I can give you a long list, they suggested that the infant is immersed in a symbiotic phase, a kind of merger and fusion with the mother. And the infant exits the physical womb when the infant is newborn, but exits the mental womb only 2 years later.
Really?
It takes the infant another 2 years to exit the symbiosis with the mother and to individuate, to separate and individuate. That is how a certain school of psychology looks at it. And so I think there's a lot of it in the paranormal. I think people need to go back to the womb. They need this oceanic feeling of connectedness, of being one with others, being one with reality, being one with the universe. There's a need to merge and to fuse. There's a need for symbiosis, because when you're in a symbiotic state, all your needs are taken care of. There is the afterlife, because if you're part of the universe and the universe is part of you, if you are inextricable, if you're indistinguishable, you're one and the same, then you will never die, obviously. You will never die. And so there's the afterlife. There's a lot of comfort. It's a form of self-soothing. And it makes you feel very safe. It affords a narrative stability. And it renders your life a lot more meaningful. Even, I would say, to some extent, grandiosely meaningful, because you are part of a cosmic scheme and the cosmic fabric. So I think it has a lot to do with this oceanic feeling. So you are predestined or preconditioned to experience paranormal phenomena. Then you experience a state of arousal and you misattribute it to the paranormal. That's how I see it. It's a
Yeah.
trigger.
Yeah. So this is before we play Christopher Hitchens, because I really want to talk to you about him, one of my all-time favorites. You're talking about the need to go back to the womb and to birth and the experience we all share. You know, in studying comparative religion, you know, all of the myths, all of the symbolism, it all lines up. And one of the theories regarding in Christianity and Judaism, the story of Noah's Ark, is that Noah's Ark is really, and similar myths in other religions, it's the collective unconscious of the trauma of being born. The Great Flood is the experience of being born, of exiting the birth canal in fluids and the afterbirth and all of that. What are your thoughts about that and how religion and either the paranormal or mysticism can converge or layer upon themselves?
It was Carl Sagan who suggested that near-death experiences are actually a re-experiencing of birth.
Really?
Yeah, he said, the light at the end of the tunnel is the light at the end of the birth canal. Just people re-experiencing the birth. I think there's another trauma in life, very early in life, which is substantially more traumatic than being born.
Okay.
And that is a trauma of realizing that you and mother are not one. The trauma of the breaking of the world, the huge schism, when suddenly you realize that you're not one with mother and the world, that there is something out there which is not you, that you are separate from the world, that there's a boundary between you and the world, and that you're pretty helpless to do anything about it or about the world. The minute, as a newborn, as an infant, the minute you see yourself in your mother's gaze, that very minute you realize your separateness and externality, because her gaze is the outside world. You see yourself in it. Again, there was a guy called Lacan, a psychoanalyst.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. By the way, we are identical twins. Like he's my, we are like absolutely, Anyhow, Lacan suggested what he called the mirror phase in human development. He said when the infant sees himself in the mirror or herself in the mirror, that's a major break, a major schism. I agree. Only I think it's not the mirror, not physical mirror, because in his work, it's physical mirror. But we know that it would happen even without, in the absence of physical mirrors. I don't think it has anything to do with physical mirror. I think the first mirror is the mother. That's the first mirror. Mother, when I say mother, a caregiver, a maternal figure. Could be the father if the mother is not there. Yeah. So the person who is providing the gaze. And I think what happens at that moment, we divorce the world. The trauma is immense because then you experience a solipsistic, existential, all-consuming solitude, which cannot be remediated and cannot be soothed and comforted, and which is life-threatening, is dramatically ominous. And you are 2 years old, 18 months to be precise. Like, what can you do about it? Not much. So what do? You develop superstition. You develop an alternative world. You develop paranormal beliefs, fantasy, paracosm, imaginary friends. And in case the environment is abusive or truly traumatizing, you become a narcissist. You develop the false self. At any rate, you develop some kind of fantastic narrative that allows you the escape from reality, because reality has instantaneously become threatening through the mother's gaze and the information conveyed that you're all on your own. That's it. You're alone, all alone. And so I think we want to go back there. We want to go to the pre-traumatic phase, when we were one with mother and one with the world. It felt so safe.
Mother Earth.
So good. Sorry?
Mother Earth. We talk about Mother Earth.
There are many maternal metaphors, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, paternal metaphors. I mean, that would be God or whatever. We want to go, we want to infantilize. We want to regress. We want back to the womb. And of course, the Latin word for womb is the matrix.
Here's a shock. It's been over 16 years since the federal minimum wage was raised to $7.25. Can you believe it? Company productivity has doubled, but has your wallet size? 1 in 5 Americans can't even qualify for a basic credit card. The system is broken. We all deserve access to decent housing, transportation, and financial stability. That is where Kickoff comes in. Kickoff helps you build credit fast with affordable plans starting at just $5 per month. No hidden fees, no interest, just on-time payments that get reported to credit bureaus and help you grow a strong credit score. Users with credit scores under 600 saw an average increase of 84 points in their first year. With premium plans, you can even build credit with the rent you already pay. Only positive payments get reported. It is so easy to get started. Sign up in minutes from your phone. No credit check, no hassle. Over 1 million users and hundreds of thousands of 5-star reviews make Kickoff the #1 credit builder on the App Store. Start building credit today and get your first month for just $1 at getkickoff.com/Maureen. That's getkickoff.com/Maureen.